In the 1950s, the public face of the American space program belonged to Wernher von Braun. With his crisp suits and visionary artwork, he looked every bit the clean-cut prophet of humanity's future in the stars. Walt Disney recognized that charisma. He gave von Braun a massive television platform to sell the American public on a dream, travel to the moon, and a futuristic Tomorrowland that felt like it was arriving any minute. To make this partnership work, a specific narrative had to be constructed. The story went that von Braun was a pure scientist who cared only about rockets and had little interest in politics. According to this narrative, he was drafted into the Nazi war machine against his will, cooperating only because his life was on the line. That story held up for decades, but as government archives from the end of World War II were finally declassified, a massive paper trail emerged. These documents reveal exactly what it took to build those early rockets. The modern space age was born from a Faustian bargain, forged in the darkness and paid for with the lives of concentration camp slave laborers. In 1943, the German military moved the production of their newest weapon, the V-2 missile, entirely underground to avoid devastating Allied air raids. They carved a facility out of the Harz Mountains called Mittelbau Dora. For the first several months, there were no barracks. Thousands of forced laborers slept on the cold, bare rock of the tunnels they actively excavated. There were no sanitary facilities, save for oil barrels cut in half. Prisoners brought in from Buchenwald and Auschwitz were worked to death. Disease and starvation were rampant. When administrators worried about sabotage on the assembly line, they hung suspected prisoners from cranes in full view of the workforce. This chart shows a devastating statistical reality. The Z-2 is the only weapon system in history that killed more people during its production, an estimated 20,000 slave laborers, than it did in actual combat operations against the Allies. Every pristine silver rocket that later inspired a generation of engineers began its lineage in the darkness and brutality of the Dora tunnels. Wernher von Braun was an active participant in this system. He officially joined the Nazi Party in 1937, long before the war began. Coming from an elite conservative background, he smoothly integrated into the regime's technical hierarchy. By 1940, he had joined the SS. He regularly collaborated with the highest levels of the Nazi command, including multiple meetings with SS chief Heinrich Himmler, who eventually promoted von Braun to the rank of major. Defenders often claim he was unaware of the laborers' plight, but in sworn testimony given decades later, von Braun admitted to visiting the Mittelwerk tunnels multiple times. He explicitly described the conditions as absolutely horrible and a hellish environment. In early 1944, the Gestapo arrested von Braun for prioritizing his dreams of space travel over military production. Once released, the pressure to deliver the V-2 was immense. To meet his deadlines, he required highly skilled technicians, and German civilians were in short supply. A critical piece of evidence surfaced in a letter dated August 15, 1944. In it, von Braun detailed a plan to set up a special testing workshop inside the tunnels, using prisoners as the workforce. In the letter, he confirms visiting Buchenwald to hand-pick laborers. "I went to Buchenwald to seek out more qualified detainees. I have arranged their transfer." One prisoner was Charles Sadron, an esteemed French physics professor. Von Braun specifically sought his expertise for the testing laboratory. Apologists often cite von Braun's polite behavior toward Sadron as a mitigating factor. In his correspondence, he even asked the SS camp commandant to grant the professor the privilege of wearing civilian clothes to encourage his cooperation. Professor Charles Sadron completely refused the offer. While von Braun showed basic courtesy to a fellow scientist, that professional identification does not excuse his role in a system built on human enslavement. He saw a peer in misery and tried to recruit him to build missiles. Wernher von Braun was a patriotic opportunist. When the Nazi state offered him the resources to build bigger, more powerful rockets, he accepted the terms. He valued the advancement of his technical discipline over the lives of the people forced to assemble his designs. Historians identify this as technocratic amoralism, a single-minded obsession with achieving a technological goal stripped of ethical considerations. In this mindset, the machine's success is paramount, and human suffering is merely a variable in the equation. He walked the tunnels of Dora. He saw the emaciated bodies and the brutalized workforce. He chose to utilize that labor pool to protect his career and keep his rocket program alive. When the massive Saturn V rocket carried the Apollo 11 astronauts to the moon, it represented a triumph of engineering, but its technological lineage traces straight back through von Braun to the Harz Mountains. The history of the Nazi rocketeers serves as a warning. Science and engineering possess incredible power, but they carry no inherent moral compass. Without ethical responsibility, the same genius used to reach for the stars can be used